Go consider this to your first part of your review for your midterm, which is a class opener. Number 1 says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that is parallel to y equals negative 3x plus 1 and has the y-intercept of 5. So, when we see the word parallel, we know that they're indirectly giving us the slope. They're telling us that the slope is exactly the same as the slope of the line that you see that they give you. So your slope will be negative 3. Okay? And they also give you the b value, which is 5. So all you got to do is write into your slope-intercept form equation y equals negative 3x plus 5. And that is your equation in slope-intercept form. I hope we found that to be easy. That is on the midterm Friday. Okay, let's look at the next one. It says, name the parent graph of y equals x squared plus 4 and the transformation it goes through. Well, if we paid attention yesterday, we know that x squared does not produce a v, but it actually produces a u. It's called a parabola. So what would the parent graph of this guy be? The parent graph would be a quadratic. So let me do this. PG, that's for parent graph, and we're going to call it a quadratic. And we could even take it further and say that the parent graph is y equals x squared. Now, let's describe the transformations. I'm not actually going to, I might as well write it down. Yeah, why not? What happens to the parent graph of y equals x squared when you actually move it to this new equation, y equals x squared plus 4? In other words, are they giving you, what's the difference between this guy and this guy? Right here there's a plus 4, over here there's no plus 4. So if you start with your parent graph and you want to get to this graph, we know that it has a k value of 4. And we know that the k value is a shift. Where's it shifting it to? Up 4 units. So the answer to this is that here's your parent function, and what do you do to that parent function to get to the new function? You're going to go up 4 units. Up 4. Now, the word that the test uses on Friday, it doesn't say up 4. Well, actually it does say up, but it says translates. Translates. Okay? So it translates up 4. Translate is just another way of saying shift. And of course we're going to review that some more today. That's it, yeah. The parent graph is a quadratic and it gets shifted up 4 units. Now, what if that would have been a minus 4 up there? It would have gone down 4. Yeah, that's right. If you would have had parentheses around the x and inside parentheses had like a plus 5, then that means it would have gone 5 to the left. So it all depends on your h or your k or your a, what actually happens to your parent graph. So if we take a look at number 3, it says write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through this point and is perpendicular to this guy. So when we think perpendicular to this, they're indirectly giving us a slope value. Now what is that slope value? M equals negative 1/3 is correct. Again, you think opposite reciprocal of what you see. So since we see a positive 3 right there, we're actually going to be thinking negative flipping 3, so it's going to be negative 1/3. Now, do they say that it crosses the y-axis at negative 6 or something like that? Does it say that it crosses the y-axis? Does it give you a y-intercept value? It does not. Nowhere on this sentence does it say y-intercept is 5 or y-intercept is 2. In other words, we don't know the b value, so we cannot write it in slope-intercept form. Right? We cannot write it in slope-intercept form y equals mx plus b. Because in order for you to write it in slope-intercept form, you need an m and you need a b. So far, we only have an m. So we cannot use slope-intercept form. But what could we use? Let's think about what they give us. They actually give us a point. I mean, this is an x value and a y value. That's a point. And I want to call that point x1, y1. And they also indirectly give us a slope. We already said that the slope they give us is negative 1/3, knowing the definition of perpendicular. So if they do give us a point and a slope, what form should we use? Point slope form. In case you forgot, it's right here. Point slope is y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. Okay? So we're going to use the point -9, -6. So let me write this down right here. -9, -6. And we're going to use the slope that we just got from the sentence, m equals negative 1/3, to plug it into point slope form. So I'm going to have y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And now I'm going to fill in the blank spots with my point and my slope. So like I said, my point x1 is here, y1 is here. So my y1 is going to go right in here, -6. My m value is negative 1/3, so I'm going to put the m value right in front of the parenthesis. And my x1 value is -9, so that goes right in there. So it's important that you are very organized when you do this. That way you'll recognize that you have the minus minus right there and the minus minus right there. Now if the question said write an equation, I would be done because I wrote an equation. But what I want to do is rewrite it in slope-intercept form. In case you forgot, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b up there. Now notice that the y equals mx plus b doesn't have any parentheses that I have right here. So I need to get rid of these parentheses by distributing the 1/3. Now I will actually distribute the 1/3 because this 9 is divisible by 3. If it would have been a 7, then maybe I would have multiplied everything by 7 to get rid of the fraction. But because it's divisible by 3, I will distribute the 1/3. So when I distribute negative 1/3 times x, I get negative 1/3 x. When I distribute negative 1/3 times, this is a positive 9 in reality. And I could put that positive 9 over 1, and I'll get the fraction negative 9 over 3. Negative 9 over 3. Okay, which becomes 3 later. Let me bring down the equal sign, and let me also bring down the y plus 6. So now I want to get the y by itself, but before I even do that, the 9 over 3 becomes 3. So I really have a minus 3 at the very end right there. And let me get y by itself by subtracting 6 on both sides. So I'm going to go minus 6 here and minus 6 over here. Now keep in mind we have a minus 3. The minus 3 minus 6, what's that going to give us? Minus 9. So my final answer, these guys cancel out. My final answer is y, that's the only thing left on the left side, equals, what's left? Negative 1/3 x, we said minus 9. So that's negative 1/3 x minus 9. Ladies and gentlemen, that's your slope-intercept form equation that satisfies your info on question number 3, that it passes through negative 9, 6, and is perpendicular to y equals 3x plus 6. So that's your answer for number 3. Let's, whoa. Let's move on to number 4, rewriting in standard form. We should all know that standard form is capital AX plus capital BY plus equals capital C. The capitals are supposed to help you remember that you don't want fractions or decimals. And you also want your A value to be positive at the end of it all. So the first thing to do is to recognize that you have fractions. Fraction here, fraction there. You don't want fractions. So what could we do to get rid of fractions? Multiply everything by the denominator of the fraction that you want to get rid of. So you could multiply this by 7, and that by 7. Or you could multiply by 4, by 4, by 4. And that would get rid of one of them at a time. Or you could get rid of both of them at the same time by multiplying by the LCD, which would happen to be 28. So I'm going to get rid of one of them at a time. All right? You could multiply everything by 28 and it'll get rid of both of them at a time, at the same time. But I want to get rid of one of them at a time. Check it out. I'm going to multiply everything by 4. Times 4 here, it's going to cancel. Times 4 over here. And does the 4 cancel with the 7? No, so I actually have to multiply it up on top. And times 4 over here with the x. So I will have 4x equals negative 12 over 7 with the y plus 5. So I got rid of one fraction. Now let me get rid of the other fraction by doing what? Multiplying everything by 7. So if I multiply by 7, those 7's cancel. But I need to multiply this by 7 and even this 5 by 7. So I'm really going to have 28x equals negative 12y plus 35. And ladies and gentlemen, I almost have it in standard form. All I have to do is get the x and the y on the same side. So I'm going to add 12y, cancels, add 12y, and I'll get my final answer, which is just rewriting it, 28 plus 12y equals 35. Let me rewrite that over here to the side. 28x plus 12y equals 35. Now, could I divide all three numbers by a certain number? Could I divide all three terms by 2? No. Could I divide all three terms by 3? No, so I'm good. Is there any fractions? No, I'm good. Is there any? Is there a negative on the a value? No. So this is it. That's your standard form equation. We're done. Moving on. This last one. Rate of change simply means what? Slope. Thank you very much. Slope. That's what you need to fill in right there. Now, it's not going to really ask that fill in the blank question on the midterm. But on the midterm, it's going to give you a graph. Let me actually clear this right here. So like, let's say we had so let's say you had this line right there, okay? And they're going to ask you to find the rate of change of that line. So what are they really asking you? Find the rate of change. Find the slope. So what would the slope be of this line from here all the way up here? 4 over 1. So the rate of change will be 4 over 1, or just 4. And again, they're not going to ask for slope, they're going to ask for rate of change. So we've already covered 5 questions that you will see on the midterm. We'll be making more videos and posting them on Edmodo so you could better prepare yourself for this Friday's 25 question multiple choice test.